What was the connection between the Janissaries and the fall of Daoud Pasha? How did an act of kindness and forgiveness lead to the end of the Mamluk dynasty? The Wali paid a heavy price for his pardon to the Janissaries, as the Sultan of Istanbul never forgave him for this personal initiative.
The Janissaries were created during the reign of Sultan Murad I with a system of forced conscription. They underwent rigorous military training in camps where discipline and obedience were paramount. The system allowed the Ottoman Empire to establish a professional army, ensuring its dominance over its rivals for centuries. These soldiers were recruited from a very young age, either through purchase or from among the sons of prisoners of war. In Baghdad, the Janissary Corps was established after Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent's entry into Iraq in 1534. He left it as a standing force under the command of the Aga of the Janissaries, who held dual authority, nominally subordinate to the Wali, but in fact attached to the Supreme Porte of Istanbul. This corps numbered 5,000 soldiers and was stationed in the Great Fort along the Tigris River. The Janissaries served in both the army and civilian society. In addition to their guard and patrol duties, they participated in the management of the country's affairs. They carried out policing missions, collected taxes, secured trade caravans, and performed other tasks. In short, they administrated the state, participating in trade, allowance, and market management. They also worked to control prices, monitor merchants, and collect customs duties. Some of their leaders owned farmland near Baghdad, particularly in Karkh and Adamiya, and formed commercial partnerships with the city's merchants. Their status often surpassed that of the Wali. From generation to generation, they integrated into Iraqi society, becoming more Baghdadi than Ottoman and an integral part of the local social fabric. They settled in Baghdad neighborhoods such as Al-Midan, Karkh, and Bab al-Izj, forming a new class, blending military and local affiliations. Their economic life was intimately linked to arms, power, and money. They enjoyed a distinct and parallel authority to that of the Wali, even superior to it. As Longring points out, they were integrated into the governmental structure, no longer simply instruments of execution. The Wali was not able to impose his decision without the approval of the Janissary Agha. When orders from higher authorities conflicted with their interests, they rebelled and refused to carry out the Wali's orders. They sometimes besieged the Divan, seat of government, and the Sarai palace, or cut off military supplies. In many cases, they went so far as to dismiss or appoint Walis, and if necessary, eliminate them. This constituted a direct challenge to the central Ottoman authority. Their leaders began to exploit their positions to collect taxes and acquire land, acting as local authorities without being controlled by the Wali or the Supreme Porte. In Istanbul, they began to interfere in state affairs, exerting pressure on the Sultan and even contributing to the deposition of some sultans and the rise to power of others. They also began to receive gifts upon the accession of each new sultan, a practice that became an established right that no sultan, however powerful, could ignore. Internal struggles among the division officers, aghas, contributed to the weakening of the military structure and engendered chaos. The situation even degenerated into complete anarchy and collapse, to the point that the officers lost their spiritual and doctrinal connection with their original Sufi system, the Bektashi order, and transformed into a semi-civilian class working to achieve their own material and political interests. This is to say, nothing of the numerous rebellion they led when they challenged the orders they received. All these factors ultimately led to their demise in the 19th century. These rebellions accumulated, creating a climate of political chaos and threatening the state. Sultan Murad II decided to annihilate them in what is known as the Al-Khairiyya incident in 1826, the repercussions of which spread to all the provinces of the empire, including Baghdad. After eradicating them, the Sultan dismantled their spiritual center, the Bektashi order, which formed their base. In Iraq, the Sultan ordered Daoud Pasha, the Wali of Baghdad, to put an end to their presence. In accordance with this order, Daoud Pasha gathered them in his palace in 1830, following the Supreme Porte's plan with the aim of eliminating them there at the Sarai Palace.
All these events took place in the palace, Sarai palace of Daoud Pasha, which was situated here in Al-Qushla, according to Dr. Ali Al-Wardi.
He read the decree, and his Mamluk soldiers deployed around them artillery ready to fire, awaiting the signal to finish them off. That day, the Wali stood in the palace, facing 18 companies of Janissaries. The Mamluks surrounding them awaited the order to open fire and attack the Janissaries. As planned, the Wali read the Sultan's decree, which caused utter astonishment and consternation, as Ali Al-Wardi recounts in his book Glimpses. The Wali addressed the Janissaries gathered in the square, his voice filled with emotion, tears in his eyes, pleading with them to obey the Sultan's order and join the new army he had established. The Janissaries had refused military training, deeming it illegitimate. The fateful hour never came. At the last moment, the Wali Daoud Pasha changed his mind. Overwhelmed by emotion, he couldn't carry out the Sultan's order. Instead of ordering his troops to annihilate the Janissaries, he decided to give them one last chance. Instead of ordering cannon fire and sword fighting, he found himself weeping and pleading with the Janissaries to abandon their army and join the new military system. That day, the governor spoke eloquently, and this approach persuaded the Janissaries to obey his command. They removed their hats as a sign of obedience and hastened to enroll in the new system. Similar events occurred in Hill, Basra, and other Iraqi cities. Subsequently, the Wali ordered the evacuation of their Bektashi place of worship in Al-Ja'afar district near Al-Karkh. Thus, the Janissaries' power was reduced through a negotiated agreement. However, other sources indicate that Daoud Pasha, the last Mamluk Wali, remained dependent on the surviving Janissaries within his army and administration. The Janissaries continued to operate normally in Baghdad despite their elimination in Istanbul, retaining their privileges and even resorting to violence when their interests diverged. Faced with this situation, the Sultan was furious with Daoud Pasha, who wanted to eliminate the Janissaries completely without any peace agreement. The Wali's initiative ultimately failed. Initially, the Sultan didn't wish to launch a military campaign and preferred to dismiss the Wali directly, not only because of his inability to eliminate the Janissaries, but also for several other reasons. He didn't pay money to the Supreme Porte and did not support its military efforts, not even the Ottoman campaign against Russia. Moreover, Wali Daoud Pasha sought to achieve true independence from the Ottoman state, like the Egyptian Wali of the time, Muhammad Ali Pasha. He sent his messenger to Baghdad, and upon the latter's arrival, Sadiq Effendi took up residence in the guest house located in Al Midan Square in Al Sabunchiya district. He personally took charge of the country's affair and began plotting to get rid of Daoud Pasha. However, Daoud was not easily swayed. Aware of the plots being hatched against him, he decided, as said in the proverb, to eat Sadiq Effendi at midday before he could eat him for dinner. On the night of October 20th, 1930, Daoud Pasha sent a battalion of soldiers to storm the guest house. Among them was a corporal named Khalid Agha. They woke Sadiq Effendi and ordered him to recite a shahad, a formula used to pronounce the two professions of faith before meeting God. Despite his pleas, they executed him as he lay at their feet. The Wali then tried to cover up the crime, claiming it was simply a death from illness. However, his lie fooled no one, and sensing a conflict between Daoud Pasha and the Sultan, the population rushed to buy food, causing prices to skyrocket. The following year, in 1831, Sultan Murad II launched a campaign against Baghdad under the command of Ali Rida Pasha Allah. The objective was to eliminate the Janissaries, dismantle their military formations, confiscate their property, and abolish traditional Janissary ranks such as Agha, Al-Arta, and Shorbachi.
In reality, it's not completely over. Even today, I greet and saying thank you, my Agha. Shukran, Aghati.
These ranks were replaced by a centralized administrative structure directly subordinate to the Supreme Porte in Istanbul. They brought an end to a long period of military influence within Baghdad society. Local administration was recognized according to the new Ottoman model, this definitively ending their power and interference in governance. This also marked the end of Daoud Pasha's reign, who was sent under escort to Istanbul, thus closing the chapter of the Janissaries and the Mamluks. The Janissary social class lost its influence, and the new class of administrators and military officers loyal to the Ottoman central power rose to power. The Agha, who had monopolized important positions, disappeared, but the term itself persists to this day. Their religious schools and their Baktashi spiritual center, a Sufi institution that had wielded considerable influence with the Ottoman state, were closed. From that moment, the Wali left his palace and was taken to Istanbul, after which Iraq reverted to the direct authority of the Supreme Porte. The palace bid farewell to its owner, Daoud Pasha, as it embarked on a new chapter in Iraqi history, reminding us that moments of emotion and seemingly idealistic decisions also come at a price.
Paradoxally, the place remains beautiful and peaceful, a place for meeting and relaxation. But in reality, it was the center of Ottoman conflicts in previous eras. Thank you.